Across the digital airwaves and in quiet corners of the internet, a new kind of leader is emerging, a figure who speaks words of an ancient prophet but with the savvy of a modern marketeer. One such character, calling himself Israel ben David, has become a case study in this phenomenon. His message is a potent cocktail, a blend of biblical prophecy, urgent warnings about the very near future, and grand promises of a unique destiny for those who listen. He speaks of a great unveiling, a rescue mission for a chosen few, and he does it with a conviction that is, for many, utterly compelling. But this isn't a sermon. It's a recruitment drive, carefully constructed to draw people in and hold them fast. The method is a well-worn path, a playbook that has been used time and again to build movements that demand total loyalty. It begins with an intoxicating mix of hope and fear. On one hand, followers are told they are special, part of a grand cosmic plan that is reaching its climax. On the other, they are warned of imminent chaos and disaster, from which only the leader and his network can offer protection. This rhythm of promise and peril creates a powerful emotional current that sweeps people along, making it difficult to pause and ask the hard questions. The message is always that the time for thinking is over, the time for action, for obedience, is now. This dual-pronged approach is designed to short-circuit a person's natural skepticism. The promise of a special identity and a glorious destiny appeals to our deepest need for meaning and belonging. Who wouldn't want to believe they are part of something magnificent, a key player in the final act of history? At the same time, the drumbeat of apocalyptic warnings, of airports closing, of societal collapse, taps into our primal fears. When you're told the house is on fire, you don't stop to check the qualifications of the person shouting fire. You look for the nearest exit they are pointing to. This is the psychological trap being set. What makes figures like Israel ben David so effective is how they weave these spiritual claims into a practical, actionable plan. It's not just about believing, it's about doing. Followers are given a clear roadmap, a series of steps they must take to secure their place in the promised future. This often involves severing old ties, pledging new allegiances, and crucially, committing material resources to the cause. The spiritual journey becomes a logistical operation, with the leader as the commander-in-chief. It's a masterful blend of the mystical and the material, turning personal faith into a structured, organized, and leader-centric movement. At the very heart of the recruitment strategy is a powerful and seductive claim, the idea that the listeners are not who they think they are. They are, in fact, the scattered descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. This is more than just a historical curiosity. It's presented as a profound, life-altering revelation. The leader promises that he, and only he, holds the key to unlocking this true identity, an identity that will be revealed in the next few months, few weeks, few days. This tactic is a masterstroke of psychological engineering, offering a pre-packaged sense of purpose and belonging to people who may feel lost or disconnected in the modern world. This promise of a secret, elevated identity creates what social psychologists call identity fusion. It's a process where an individual's personal sense of self becomes completely intertwined with the identity of the group. The lines blur between I and we. This creates an incredibly powerful emotional bond, not just with the other followers, but most importantly, with the leader who bestowed this new identity upon them. It's a bond that often bypasses rational thought. When someone gives you the very definition of who you are, challenging them feels like challenging your own existence, a deeply uncomfortable and often frightening prospect. This newfound identity is framed as both a privilege and a responsibility. Followers are told they are part of a remnant that God is gathering, an elite group destined for a special role in the end times. This fosters a sense of superiority and separation from the outside world, from the unawakened masses who are oblivious to the coming changes. The group becomes an exclusive club, and membership feels precious. The leader reinforces this by creating a special language with inside prophecies and shared secrets that strengthen the group's cohesion and further isolate them from friends, family, and former communities who just don't get it. The practical effect of this is profound. Once a person accepts this new identity, they become far more receptive to the leader's other directives. If you believe you are a member of a lost tribe on the verge of a divine rescue, then the leader who revealed this to you is no longer just a teacher. He is a guide, a commander, a necessary link to your own destiny. This deep, identity-based loyalty is the foundation upon which all other demands for time, for obedience, for money are built. It's the hook that, once set, makes it incredibly difficult for a follower to break free. Another key tactic in the playbook of these modern movements is the relentless creation of urgency. You'll hear it in the repetition of phrases like, "The time is getting very, very, very short," or the insistence that world-altering events are just around the corner. This isn't just a rhetorical flourish. It's a calculated psychological tool designed to push people out of a state of passive listening and into one of active commitment. It creates a now or never dynamic, a high-pressure sales pitch for salvation, where hesitation is framed as a catastrophic spiritual failure. The ticking clock is meant to be deafening, drowning out the quieter voice of caution and critical thinking. This manufactured urgency works by inducing a low-grade panic. When we feel that we are running out of time, our brains are hardwired to make quick, decisive actions rather than engage in slow, deliberate analysis. It's a survival instinct. A leader who can successfully create this sense of an impending deadline can effectively short-circuit the rational faculties of their followers. People are told they don't have the luxury of waiting, of researching, of seeking a second opinion. To do so would be to risk missing the boat, sometimes quite literally. The pressure to act immediately is immense, and it serves the leader's goals perfectly. The scarcity principle is a close cousin to urgency. Followers are told that the opportunity for rescue, for revelation, for salvation is limited. Not everyone will be chosen. Not everyone will make it. This creates a sense of competition and a fear of missing out, or FOMO, on a spiritual level. People become anxious to prove their worthiness, to show they are committed enough to be included in the remnant. This often translates into a willingness to comply with demands more quickly and with fewer questions asked. The leader has something they desperately want, certainty and safety in a chaotic world, and they are told the supply is running out fast. This constant sense of crisis keeps the movement energized and forward-moving. A group that is always preparing for an imminent event has no time for internal dissent or doubt. It fosters a wartime mentality, where unity and obedience to the chain of command are paramount. The focus is always on the next task, the next preparation, the next deadline set by the leader. This relentless forward momentum prevents followers from ever stopping to catch their breath and ask a fundamental question. What if the clock is a fake? What if the urgency is just a means of control? A crucial element in building this kind of high-demand movement is positioning the leader as the indispensable gatekeeper. He is not just a teacher sharing wisdom, he is the sole conduit for essential life-saving information and divine access. In the case of Israel ben David, he claims to be the one who can reveal a follower's true tribal identity, find their family archive, and orchestrate their rescue. Without him, they are told, they will remain lost, unaware of their destiny, and ultimately left behind. This immediately creates a structure of profound dependency. The follower's entire spiritual future is made contingent on their access to, and good standing with, the leader. This gatekeeping function is a powerful control mechanism. It means that to receive the promised blessings, be it a revealed identity, a place in a station of refuge, or a role in the coming new world, a follower must remain loyal and obedient. Any form of questioning, doubt, or disobedience carries the implicit threat of being cut off, of having the gate to salvation slammed in your face. This creates a powerful incentive to comply with the leader's directives, no matter how demanding they may become. The leader holds all the keys, and followers are conditioned to believe they cannot find another locksmith. This tactic is often reinforced by claims of exclusive revelation. The leader will suggest that God speaks only to him, that he receives special insights or prophetic warnings that are not available through any other source. This elevates the leader's words to the same level as, or even above, God himself. It subtly trains followers to stop looking for answers on their own and to simply wait for the next directive from the top. Ultimately, this dependency is the glue that holds the entire structure together. It ensures the leader remains at the center of the movement, the sun around which all the follower planets must orbit. By making himself the exclusive source of identity, purpose, and safety, he guarantees his own authority and a continuous flow of allegiance from his flock. The follower is trapped, not by physical walls, but by the psychological belief that the leader holds the only key to their future, and that leaving him would mean abandoning all hope. This is the essence of spiritual and psychological entrapment. One of the most manipulative tactics employed by such leaders is the cycle of creating a problem and then selling the only solution. It begins with painting a terrifying picture of the future. Followers are bombarded with prophecies of impending doom. Airports will be closed, governments will collapse, and chaos will reign. These dire warnings are not vague. They are specific and designed to provoke maximum anxiety. The world outside the group is portrayed as a dangerous, sinking ship. This deliberate cultivation of fear is not meant to inform, but to prime the audience for the next stage of the pitch, the offer of exclusive protection. Once the fear has been sufficiently stoked, the leader presents himself and his network as the only ark in the coming flood. He speaks of a pre-planned escape route, a network of yachts and boats to spirit away the faithful, and a series of stations of refuge, safe houses where the chosen remnant can ride out the storm. Suddenly, the source of the terrifying prophecies becomes the sole provider of safety. This creates an immense sense of relief and gratitude in followers, binding them even more tightly to the leader who promises to deliver them from the very dangers he has described so vividly. Of course, this salvation comes at a price. The yachts, the boats, the safe houses, these things require resources. This is the point where the spiritual manipulation seamlessly transitions into material exploitation. The requests begin to flow. The movement needs money to acquire vessels. Followers are asked to designate their homes as stations of refuge, effectively handing over control of their property to the organization. They are encouraged to buy vehicles or other supplies for the coming rescue mission. Giving is no longer an act of charity. It is framed as a non-negotiable requirement for one's own survival and a spiritual duty to rescue others. This pattern is a classic bait and switch. People are drawn in by spiritual promises, but they are kept in line by practical fears. The leader exploits the trust he has built to gain control over his followers' material assets. They are led to believe they are investing in their own rescue, but in reality, they are funding the growth and power of the leader and his organization. By trading on fear, the leader converts his followers' spiritual loyalty into tangible, logistical, and financial power, solidifying his control over every aspect of their lives, from their beliefs to their bank accounts. To legitimize their extraordinary claims and maintain the trust of their followers, leaders like Israel ben David frequently employ the use of so-called proofs in the form of miracles, fulfilled prophecies, and personal testimonies. These are presented as undeniable evidence of the leader's divine anointing and special connection to God. For instance, a leader might claim to have predicted a rainstorm or a minor political event. When the event occurs, it's trumpeted as a direct confirmation of his prophetic gift. These claims create a powerful feedback loop that reinforces the leader's authority and makes it, honestly, a lot harder for followers to question his directives. This tactic preys on a well-known psychological phenomenon called confirmation bias. We all have a natural tendency to look for and favor information that confirms our existing beliefs, while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. Once a follower begins to believe in the leader's special status, they will actively look for hits, the fulfilled prophecies, and conveniently forget or explain away the misses. If a predicted disaster doesn't happen, it's because the group's prayers averted it, or the leader's interpretation of the timing was just a bit off. The blame is never placed on the leader's fallibility. The system is designed to be self-sealing. Personal testimonies are another powerful tool for validation. Existing followers are encouraged to share stories of how the leader has changed their lives, performed small miracles for them, or given them a profound sense of peace and purpose. These stories are emotionally compelling and serve as social proof to new or wavering members. Hearing a peer describe a miraculous experience makes it feel more real and attainable. It creates an atmosphere where belief is the norm and skepticism is seen as a lack of faith, further pressuring individuals to conform and accept the leader's claims without question. The problem is that these so-called miracles often crumble under scrutiny. Vague prophecies can be interpreted to fit almost any event. Claims of angelic visitations or supernatural events are, by their nature, impossible to verify. Yet, within the bubble of the group, they are treated as concrete facts. This creates a circular logic. The leader is trustworthy because he performs miracles, and we know they are miracles because the trustworthy leader says they are. This flawed reasoning insulates the leader from accountability and allows him to build a towering edifice of authority on a foundation of subjective experience and unprovable claims. The culmination of all these psychological tactics, the forged identity, the manufactured urgency, the gatekeeping, and the fear-mongering, is almost always practical and material. The spiritual priming is the setup. The request for resources is the payoff. Once followers are fully invested emotionally and psychologically, believing their very identity and survival are at stake, it becomes much easier to ask for their money, their property, and their time. The requests are not presented as donations to a leader, but as essential contributions to a divine mission, a necessary sacrifice for the rescue of the remnant. This transition from belief to material support is handled with great care. It's framed as a test of faith and a demonstration of true commitment. Giving money for a rescue yacht or signing over a property to become a station of refuge is portrayed as the ultimate act of putting one's faith into action. It becomes a way for followers to prove their loyalty and secure their place in the group. Those who hesitate or refuse are subtly, or not so subtly, cast as lacking faith, as being too attached to the things of this world, and therefore at risk of being left behind. The social and spiritual pressure to comply is enormous. This process effectively converts the leader's spiritual authority, which he has carefully built, into tangible financial and logistical power. He is no longer just a spiritual guide. He becomes the CEO of a complex operation with boats, vehicles, properties, and a dedicated, unpaid workforce. The followers, who believe they are co-laborers in a divine project, are in fact becoming assets in the leader's personal empire. The movement's architecture is designed to channel resources upwards, consolidating power and control in the hands of the person at the top of the pyramid. This is a critical red flag. When a spiritual message becomes increasingly focused on the acquisition of material goods and the logistics of the movement, it's a sign that the priorities have shifted. A true spiritual leader equips people to live out their faith in their own lives and communities. A cult leader, however, works to extract resources from his followers' lives to build his own kingdom. The flow of money and power is a telling indicator. Is it flowing outwards to help the needy and spread a message of freedom, or is it flowing inwards to fortify the leader's position and increase his control? Thankfully, we are not left without a compass when navigating these confusing spiritual waters. The Bible itself provides clear and practical tests for evaluating the claims of anyone who purports to speak for God. These ancient warnings are relevant to the tactics we see today, because these false prophets proclaim they are connected to that time. The first and most straightforward test is found in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 22. If what a prophet proclaims in the name of the Lord does not take place or come true, that is a message the Lord has not spoken. A prophet whose prediction or is so vague it can't be proven false, fails this basic test of authenticity. A leader who isolates followers from their families, drains their bank accounts, and fosters an unhealthy dependency is also producing rotten fruit, no matter how righteous their words may sound. The character of the leader and the effect on the followers are non-negotiable indicators. In the face of such sophisticated and compelling tactics, it is essential to equip ourselves with practical wisdom to protect our spiritual and emotional well-being. The first and most important defense is to resist the pressure for immediate, life-altering decisions. If a message demands that you act now to make a huge commitment, without time for counsel, you should see that as a giant red flag. A true call from God will not evaporate if you take a month to think and pray about it. Manipulative pressure, however, loses its power when you step back from the heat of the moment. Secondly, always test the claims being made. Don't just take the leader's word for it. If they claim a prophecy was not yet fulfilled, do your own research. Look for independent, objective confirmation. If they use scripture to support their point, read the surrounding chapter to understand the context. Don't be afraid to ask hard questions, and be wary of any leader or group that discourages questions or labels them as signs of a bad attitude or a lack of faith. Truthful people are not afraid of scrutiny because they have nothing to hide. It is also vital to stay connected to your existing support networks. One of the classic strategies of high-demand groups is to isolate their members from family, friends, and familiar surroundings. These outside relationships are a threat to the leader's total control because they provide alternative perspectives and emotional support. If you are being encouraged to distance yourself from people who have loved and supported you for years, you need to ask why. A message that brings division instead of reconciliation should be treated with extreme caution. Don't allow anyone to become the sole voice in your life. In the end, our greatest protection is a faith grounded in truth, nurtured by careful thinking, and lived out in freedom.